Tim Parlatore, former attorney for President Trump in the Mar-a-Lago documents investigation, along with Ty Cobb, former Trump White House lawyer. So thanks very much to both of you, and I'm so glad to have you both here in person. I know there's a lot you agree on and some you disagree, and I want to give people a chance to think through this carefully. So Tim, you've had the weekend to really read through this again and again and again.
So here's the scoop. This morning on the 23rd of February, 2026, Trump strolled into a courtroom in New York thinking he was about to finally find a way out of all his legal troubles. His team has been working hard on this immunity defense for what feels like ages. They've been sending in legal briefs and making court filings all centered around this idea that goes something like, "I'm the president, so I can't be prosecuted." That's basically been their golden ticket, the main strategy they believed would keep him safe from all the charges piling up against him. They were counting on it, fully invested in the idea that it would shield him from any consequences. Now, let's touch on some expert opinions.
How strong is the government case here?
A lot of it's going to come down to how much of what is in the indictment do they have backup for. And, when I read it through, I see, there's certainly parts of that I do think are not as strong. The two pieces of it that give me a little bit of pause are the exchanges between the president and Walt Nauta regarding the movement of boxes.
Tim Parlatore, who used to work as an attorney for Trump, recently had some time to sift through the case details again. He pointed out that the strength of the government's case is really going to hinge on how solid the evidence behind the indictment is. When he took a closer look, he noticed some aspects that didn't seem as strong. Specifically, he raised some concerns about exchanges involving Trump and Walt Nauta about the movement of boxes. So there are definitely some murky waters here in the legal landscape.
Again, if they actually have all the video and everything that they claim to back that up, that's going to be a tremendous hurdle. The other thing is the exchanges with the employee of the PAC about the map.
Right, dissemination.
Correct. That's going to be potentially problematic because there's no tape of that, it seems. It seems like that is something that is based on the testimony of somebody who may still work for him.
So it looks like if the prosecution actually has all that video evidence they're claiming, it's going to present a huge challenge for the defense. Then there's the issue with the employee from the PAC discussing the map and how that information was shared. That's definitely going to complicate things for them. There's a lot more we need to uncover about that exchange, as it's packed with quotes and details. Now, interestingly enough, Bill Barr is saying that Trump is basically toast. Before anything unfolded in the courtroom, he suggested that Trump legally wouldn't stand a chance. And then the judge really made a statement by tearing up the arguments against prosecution in front of everyone.
Well, the judge overseeing former President Trump's case issued a warning to the former president. Now, the justice there, according to the New York Times, telling Trump's lawyers to speak to Trump and those in his circle and tell them to, quote, refrain from making statements that are likely to incite violence or civil unrest. The judge, however, stopped short of issuing a gag order. But will Trump be able to contain himself?
Like literally shredding them right there. This isn't just some minor decision that affects a small detail. It's a big deal. Judge Juan Marone ruled decisively that no, Trump isn't above the law just because he was president. In a shocking twist, Trump was so furious and unable to hold himself back that the judge had to kick him out of the courtroom. Imagine that. The sitting president of the United States getting tossed out like some guy starting a bar fight. It's wild and completely unprecedented. You've got to see the footage. It's gone viral with over 12 million views in just a few hours.
Oh, he railed against everybody last night, not just the prosecutors who have now filed these short charges in New York and the judge overseeing the case. He went after prosecutors who haven't even filed any charges against him yet, including the Fulton County District Attorney in Georgia and the federal special prosecutor who's looking into obstruction of justice.
In the courtroom, Trump stood there absolutely frozen, looking like he couldn't wrap his head around what was happening. For a good 45 seconds, he was just motionless, mumbling, "Unbelievable," under his breath while his lawyers scrambled around him, clearly panicking. Everything was unraveling right before the cameras and everyone watching. And the timing, it couldn't be more brutal. So get this, just hours before his State of the Union address, where he's supposed to discuss unity and America's bright future, he gets kicked out of court. Just hours. I can only imagine the picture he's trying to paint. being the leader of the free world while viral clips of his courtroom humiliation are popping up all over the internet.
Making him throw up his hands and storm out of the courtroom, and then he gave a statement. So let's listen to this.
The witness just admitted that we won the trial, and the judge should end this trial immediately. Thank you.
They're all over Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, you name it. Everyone is watching him take that hit in front of a judge. This moment is a real turning point. It's like his whole legal strategy is crumbling right before our eyes, and the political fallout is stacking up. This really hits hard against the narrative he's been spinning since he took back the White House. You know, the one he paints himself as the untouchable victor, the one who claims that nothing can bring him down. But that story pretty much ended right there in Judge Merchant's courtroom, broadcast for the world to see.
My colleague, and I'm going to read it word for word again, I'm getting this from inside the courtroom. The 2019 testimony that's being questioned right now of Michael Cohen, he said that he stands by when he said to lawmakers, did Mr. Trump direct you or Mr. Weisselberg to inflate numbers for his personal statement? Not that I recall, no.
The judge essentially declared that no, his immunity doesn't hold up. He stands there looking utterly stunned like he just got hit by a truck, as if the ground has shifted beneath him. It's a wild twist when you consider what the prosecutor Alvin Bragg bluntly stated in court. No president is above the law. And trust me, he wasn't just saying this to sound tough. He meant every word. He laid out clear evidence, talked about new witnesses ready to testify, and mentioned documented falsified records. This isn't some random shot in the dark. These prosecutors are armed with solid proof and ready to take their case to trial. Speaking of trial, it's set for March 2026. Which is basically around the corner, just about 30 days away. We could be looking at a pretty significant moment in American history here. The first time a sitting president faces prosecution while still in office. Not years down the line when he's out, but right now. Right now, we've got a sitting president who's in a courtroom looking totally defeated and shell-shocked while he's supposed to be making big decisions about tariffs in Iran, issues that impact millions of people. Legal analysts are starting to talk openly about impeachment again, and constitutional scholars are echoing these concerns on television. It's a bit unnerving to consider how destabilizing this could be for our entire government system. What's shocking is that these 34 felony counts that everyone thought were settled are now back in play. It seemed like Trump had moved past that legal battle, but no, they've resurrected. These charges are serious, and we're talking about potential prison time for a sitting president. This kind of criminal prosecution during his time in office is unprecedented in American history, and it's territory we've never navigated before. It's causing a fracture within the GOP as they grapple with the pressure of it all. Now, let's dig into what so many folks are misunderstanding about this ruling. The headlines might scream that Trump's immunity defense got crushed. And sure, that's a significant point making the rounds on news networks. But honestly, there's a lot more under the surface here that paints an even grimmer picture for Trump. This isn't just a legal hiccup he can bounce back from. It marks a fundamental shift in how the courts view him and what they'll let slide in his legal challenges moving forward. Many people think that immunity means the president can't be held accountable for anything ever. That's what Trump's team was pushing in their legal filings and courtroom statements, arguing for total protection for any official act tied to his duties. They were all in on it, betting everything on that argument. But here's the important piece that nobody seems to be discussing. Judge Merchant's ruling was way more nuanced and specific than just a simple blanket immunity. That's what makes this situation even trickier for Trump than most realize. So, the judge really laid it down, making it clear that immunity doesn't cover unofficial actions like falsifying financial records and documents. That's a game share for how this case is going to unfold. The whole hush money situation is centered around hiding payments and altering records. It's not about the presidential duties Trump had, but rather his personal misconduct linked to campaign finance and influencing the election. This is all about actions he took before he even became president, back when he was just a regular citizen in 2016. What's interesting here is the courts are now starting to draw a line between what's protected and what isn't. They seem to be saying there's a tiny area where immunity might apply in certain situations, But once you step out of official business and into personal criminal behavior, you lose that protection. At that point, you're treated like anyone else under the law, subject to prosecution. Then there was Trump making a scene in the courtroom yelling about rigged witch hunts. It was almost comical really how typical that reaction was. That outburst got him tossed out by the judge who had warned him several times to calm down. His lawyers were practically begging him to keep quiet, and he just couldn't hold it together. There he was shouting that it's all rigged in a witch hunt right in front of everyone, including cameras and a stenographer recording every word. Now that moment is etched into the nation's memory forever. Seeing a former president getting kicked out of a courtroom for his own behavior for losing his cool and ignoring direct orders from the judge. It's quite the symbol, really. That kind of thing shifts how people view authority, power, and what it means to lead, especially since Trump has always pushed this image of being strong and untouchable. This courtroom incident completely shatters that perception. In New York, things are taking a different turn for Trump, who seems to be in a whirlwind of legal troubles during his second term. The Georgia case, with its big election interference and racketeering charges, is a perfect example. People were celebrating when those charges were dropped, claiming Trump had come out on top, especially on Fox News. However, what they overlooked was that the prosecutors in Georgia had their hands tied due to jurisdiction issues. They couldn't pursue a case against a sitting president at that time. It was a smart legal move, but the evidence didn't just vanish, nor did the law violations go away. It simply meant they couldn't act at that moment. That case is still out there waiting in the wings. Now let's talk about New York. Alvin Bragg is the prosecutor there, and he's not backing down. He already pursued these charges years ago during Trump's first term, but they got sidelined amidst all the election chaos and the January 6th investigations. Bragg, though, has always thought the case was solid. He held on to that belief, and now he's back with more witnesses, stronger documentation, and a mountain of evidence ready to go to trial. Just take a second to digest this. 34 counts. That's no small number. This isn't just a token prosecution to show they're doing something. These are serious felony charges with real penalties. We're talking potential prison time for the sitting president of the United States. This is more than just a courtroom drama. This could lead to a conviction, incarceration, and a permanent criminal record. The stakes are incredibly high. Legal analysts are in a frenzy over this, and constitutional scholars are having some heated discussions which haven't happened since the Founding Fathers were hashing out the Constitution and debating the separation of powers. The question on everyone's lips is whether it's possible to prosecute a sitting president. Trump's current situation is a real game share, and it's honestly hard to believe he said some of the things he did. You see, there's this big question hanging in the air. What does this mean for the power of the executive office? On one hand, it could undermine the presidency if a criminal prosecution moves forward. On the other hand, it might just show that no one in this country is above the law, not even the president. That's the tension we're dealing with. And it's what makes this moment so crucial for everyone and for the very future of democracy. We're stepping into unknown territory here where the Supreme Court has never made clear rulings. Trump's case is likely to set the precedent for all that comes after it. Pretty heavy stuff, right? Moments like this are destined for history books now. Let's talk about the timing. It couldn't be worse for Trump in his second term. He should be rallying his party together, consolidating his power, and focusing on pushing through his agenda. He's got tariffs and immigration policies in the pipeline. Big moves that need the GOP unified. Instead, he's stuck dealing with humiliation in the courtroom while his party is falling apart at the seams. You can see it everywhere. There's tension between factions. Too much infighting. Recently, Clune pushed back on his Iran policy. Fox News has started criticizing him, and Republican senators are voicing their concerns. The automatic loyalty that used to exist, it's just not there anymore. The GOP is fracturing, and this whole courtroom drama is speeding up that process. So, what's important to take away from all this? Let's break it down into 3 key points that will reshape how Trump is viewed going forward and how the legal system will handle him. First, his defense based on immunity is pretty much dead in the water. His legal team spent months building their strategy around presidential immunity, even going to the Supreme Court and scoring some favorable rulings that seemed hopeful at the time. But now, that's all out the window. So, it turns out that Judge Merchant's recent ruling is a real game share for Trump. They've thought they could shield him from any prosecution or charges, but not anymore. The judge made it clear that the immunity only applies to actions he takes while doing his official presidential duties. As soon as he steps outside that realm, like when he's falsifying records or messing around with campaign finance laws for personal gain, he loses that protection. Just like anyone else, he becomes subject to the law. This really shakes up his legal defense approach moving forward. He can no longer claim, "I'm the president, so you can't touch me." The courts have drawn a line, and he's on the wrong side of it. Sure, there's always a chance it could be challenged in higher courts or overturned. But the fact that a judge is willing to take this stand now is significant. It shows that the courts are not going to treat him as if he's completely above the law, and that has serious implications for all his ongoing legal issues. Looking ahead, the trial is set for next month, which is March 2026. It's not some distant worry. It's right around the corner, just about 30 days away. We could be witnessing the first time a sitting president gets prosecuted while still serving in office. Imagine him trying to balance his presidential duties while sitting in a courtroom facing charges. He'll have Secret Service keeping an eye on him in the courthouse, possibly even having to testify and answer tough questions about his personal actions. It's not just a logistical mess. It's a political nightmare that's way bigger than that. The implications for the country and how government operates are enormous. Every day of that trial seems to become a headline dominating the news cycle. Every witness that takes the stand grabs attention, and each piece of evidence is out there for the whole country to digest. Trump finds himself in a tough spot. He can't control any of this. Tweeting about it could land him in trouble for contempt, and complaining would just make him look guilty. It's like he's frozen, unable to spin the narrative, and everyone's watching him unravel in real time. This situation is shaking things up for the entire GOP at the absolute worst time. Unity is crucial right now, especially with internal divides cropping up. Some are rebelling over foreign policy and military decisions, while others are conflicted about how to handle Trump and his presidency. Fox News is moving away from him, too, criticizing his positions. And then here comes this courtroom fiasco, adding even more weight to an already heavy load. It's turned into a symbol that maybe Trump isn't as untouchable as people once believed. It's a reality check that the legal system could actually hold him accountable regardless of his status. When your coalition is already on shaky ground, a symbol like that hits hard. It further cracks whatever unity they're fighting to uphold. With the midterms just around the corner, the party needs to present a strong and united front appearing in control and capable of governance. But instead, there's a viral video making the rounds of a sitting president being tossed out of court by a judge. Lawyers are scrambling to figure out their next steps, and the message from the judge resonates loud and clear. Nobody is above the law, not even the president, not even the most powerful person in the country. And here's why this moment is critical. Trump was supposed to go on TV tonight to deliver the State of the Union address, commanding the room and shaping the narrative. He was meant to lay out his agenda, talk about strength, unity, and the greatness of America. All that motivational stuff. Yet, the conversation has shifted dramatically. It's now about courtroom embarrassment, about the cracks in his immunity, and whether he's really untouchable anymore, or if the legal system is finally catching up to him. That's a huge change in the way things are being talked about. So here's the deal. Trump stepped into that courtroom thinking he had this solid immunity shield, fully believing he'd skate through everything unscathed. But then things took a wild turn. He ended up getting shown the door with security officers escorting him out. It's kind of incredible to see it all unfold. Really, his legal strategy just fell apart right in front of everyone. And you know, this isn't something that just blows over easily in the public eye. It's not like he can spin this with a polished message or some catchy talking points. The Democrats are all over this, using it as a weapon, and they've got every intention of playing it on repeat. Even the courts are not cutting him any slack. There's chatter from even Republican judges declaring that he's not above the law, and that's going to keep coming back at him. With that viral footage of him booted from court, it really becomes tough to push back against the narrative that's forming. The opinions are likely to shift quite a bit. We're already starting to see some early changes in polling, especially in those swing states where people are feeling nervous about Trump's ongoing legal issues and what they might mean for his capability to govern. This ruling just speeds up that downward trend in the polls. Now, it's not just a distant threat. It's real and happening right now, and millions have seen it. It's embedded in the public's mind for good. And as for what's next in the legal landscape, it's all a bit unclear. There are a lot of unknowns, more rulings, possible appeals that could drag things out, or even last-minute deals that could flip the whole situation. But one thing is for sure, this moment has changed the game. It shattered the illusion that Trump is untouchable. It showed the courts aren't afraid to challenge him, which is politically risky for him since it chips away at that invincible narrative he and others have built. So in sum, today marked a significant shift. That courtroom exit wasn't just about him getting kicked out. It was a harsh reminder for his party that maybe he's not as unstoppable as they've been telling themselves. Today marked a significant turning point, signaling that even someone who seems untouchable might actually face the consequences of their actions under the legal system. This is the real story, and it all starts from this moment. The upcoming trial, the decisions that will be made, and the political aftermath are all interconnected with what happened today. It's going to be a wild ride. So, keep an eye on this situation because it's just getting started and things are bound to heat up as we go along.